What's up, YouTubers? How is it going? You got Daisha here coming to you from Tigard, Oregon, and in this video, I want to give you 3 reasons why relationships seem to not work out nowadays. So let's get to it. As always, make sure to check out my Facebook page every single day for a little bit of motivation and inspirational tips on my daily dose with Daisha, and make sure to hit that subscribe button below if you want to keep up to date on these videos and not miss a thing. So, the first thing when it comes to having a successful and healthy relationship is talked about everywhere, right? You see it on social media, you see it in different articles, you see it in different studies that have been done by doctors and therapists. They all say the same thing. The key to a healthy relationship is effective communication. Communication, right? It's so simple, communication. Something so simple, yet people have such a hard time with it. So, when it comes to communication, if you are not on the same level with another person, if you're not allowing yourself to come from a place of understanding and wanting to understand and hear that person out, not just listening to respond, but actually listening to hear them and understanding. If you're not coming from that place when you're communicating with your business partner or with your spouse, then your relationship is going to end up falling, right? The communication will drop and so will your relationship. The thing is like people get inside of a relationship, communication is great, but eventually it starts going south. And when that relationship or the communication starts going south, then a lot of the times people just end up giving up. That's why so many relationships don't last nowadays, is because they allow their communication, the connection that they have with each other, to fall. And it makes sense, right? If you were in a relationship and someone wasn't understanding you, they weren't taking the time to even try to understand you, why would you be in that relationship? Why would you continue to put your energy and your efforts into a relationship where someone doesn't seem like they care about you? They don't even care about you enough to actually try to listen and try to understand what you're saying. So allow yourself to communicate. If you're going through a rough patch right now, if you've been arguing with each other on a daily basis, if you feel like things are just not getting better, all you can do is argue. Sit down and have a normal adult conversation, right? Let them know how you feel. Like, look, I've been feeling this way. I'm not saying it's your fault, right? You don't want to place any blame on anyone because it's no one's fault. It just happens, right? Don't try to place any blame on someone. Simply just say, look, I've been feeling this way. I know that we've been arguing so much and I'm sorry, but I want to come up with a solution. If your relationship is worth saving, if you feel like that relationship is worth keeping inside of your life, then you should be willing and open to actually communicating with that person. You did it at the beginning, so of course you can redo that. Sit down, let them know how you're feeling, really hear them out as to what they're feeling. No judgment, no blame, no anything. You're literally just sitting down and having a conversation. Doing that one thing will completely start changing everything inside of your relationship, which is going to bring us to number 2. The reason why people go from having a really great communication to 6 months, a year down the road, that it starts to decline. So that brings us to number 2. Why does a relationship start up really, really good, but then the next minute it feels like we're just arguing, right? What changed during that period of time? Most people don't even know. They aren't even aware of it. They think that it's just the other person's fault as to why things change, and that's just not the case. It's our own responsibility. The thing that causes this is nothing else than perspective. Perspective is so important when it comes to a relationship. How we view ourselves, how we view the world around us, and how we view other people is what subconsciously makes us interact and makes us communicate in a certain way. So for example, right, you start out in a really good relationship, communication is great. You guys do everything you possibly can for each other. You're viewing that person as the most amazing person in the world. You know that they are worth it, and you know that you're worth it to be in their lives, right? That's usually what it is at the beginning of a relationship. You're trying to do everything you possibly can to make them happy. Your perspective of them is that you want to be understanding because you know that they will do the same thing for you. Something happens during that time, and that something is just our perspective changing. Things start going a little rough. Things start getting a little bit harder. And instead of us spending more time on trying to understand each other, then we start shifting to a perspective of complete blame. And we start blaming other people for our own actions, for our own feelings. Then we're betraying our own emotions, right? We're betraying our own feelings. So it causes us to subconsciously start acting and communicating in a certain way to another person. If your perspective of someone is that they are a negative person, that they're lazy, that they don't do anything, that they can't achieve anything in their life, or they're holding you back, if that's your perspective of someone, then of course you're probably not going to treat them very well, right? You're probably not going to treat them very well. So if you're going through a rough time, or it feels like you're arguing 24/7, like your communication is on a rough spot right now, look at the way that you're viewing that person. If it's not the other person just yelling at you 24/7 and you just taking it, if you are actually in a relationship where you're yelling back, where you're arguing back with another person and blaming them, take a step back and look at the way that you perceive them. Do you see them as someone that is loving, someone that you would do anything for, someone that no matter what happens, you will take care of them? Do you see them the same exact way? Do you perceive them the same exact way that you did when you first got in that relationship? And if not, you need to take a step back and really see how you're viewing that person. You should never, ever, it doesn't matter how someone treats you, you should never view a person as anything less than a human, right? That person has feelings just like you. That person is coming from a place that's probably pretty freaking dark, right? If you're going through a hard time, if you're going through a dark time, they're probably going through that dark time as well. Or at least they have in the past, so they're going to be understanding of that. So you can be understanding of other people. They are more open to being understanding of you, which is going to bring us to number 3. All right, so the third and final thing is super, super important. We've talked about communication, the way that we communicate with other people, the way that we perceive other people, our perception of them, and how it subconsciously makes us act in a certain way. But how about ourselves? The third thing is self-worth. Self-worth is so, so important when it comes to a relationship, because the way that we communicate with ourselves, the way that we perceive ourselves is what subconsciously makes us think and communicate with other people in a certain way. It's actually what makes other people think of us in a certain way as well. I know that's kind of crazy to think about, but stick with me here. When it comes to self-worth, if you're thinking negatively about yourself 24/7, then what is that going to do to another person, right? Tony Robbins talks about this all the time, about how people are mirrors, about how if you hang around someone enough, then you start acting in a similar way, right? So think about that for a second. If you're consistently telling yourself that you're not good enough, if you're consistently telling yourself that that person, your spouse, deserves better, if you're consistently telling yourself that you're fat and you're ugly and you don't understand why your spouse is with you, then how is that going to make them feel? Not only are you communicating to yourself like that, but now you're communicating to your spouse that you think that they deserve better, that you're just fat and ugly every single time that they just want to tell you that you're beautiful. You say, no, I don't think so. What is that going to set in their minds? This is so important to think about, because if you're communicating to another person that I think that you deserve better, then they're going to take that suggestion, not even consciously, right? Because most people aren't even aware of the things that they're saying, but subconsciously, they're going to take that into their mind and it's going to kind of sink. And the more that you tell them that they deserve better, that you're not good enough for them, inside of their mind, their subconscious is going to start believing it. What you believe of yourself really shines out to other people. That's why when you see people that are confident, right, it shows. It's not just on the inside that it shows on the outside as well. And when people think negatively about themselves, it also shows. And if we're mirrors, if you're thinking negatively about yourself, then not only are you going to think negatively about yourself, but your spouse is going to start thinking that as well. And now their perspective is going to change. Not only your perspective, but now their perspective is going to change. And they're going to start thinking the same thing. They're going to start treating you as an object more than a person, because you're doing that to yourself as well. So check yourself for a moment. Do a checkup from the neck up, as they say, and really analyze yourself. Do you love yourself? Do you feel like you have enough self-worth? And if not, here's what I want you to do. Every single morning when you wake up, I want you to think of 3 things at least that you love about yourself. Stand in front of a mirror and really say to yourself, I love you, I respect you, and you are worthy. after you say these 3 things, find 3 things you love about yourself, whether it's your smile, whether it's your eyes, whether it's just the fact that your heart beats 24/7 on a daily basis without you even having to think about it, right? The fact that your blood is flowing through you at a perfect rate just so you can stay alive. Whether it's your style, the way that you sing, the way that you communicate with other people, find 3 things that you love about yourself. Really find them and truly believe them when you say it to yourself in the mirror. And I don't want you to just say it in your head. If you're standing in front of the mirror, I want you to say it out loud. And I know that seems kind of crazy, but when you say it out loud, you accept it more, right? What do you really kind of attach yourself to more, right? The things that people say in person to you, or just the things that you're thinking about inside of your head. We have over 50,000 thoughts a day. 50,000 thoughts a day. Of course, we're not going to be aware of every single one of those thoughts, but the ones that we are more aware of is when we're talking out loud. So when you're standing in front of the mirror, name 3 things that you love about yourself every single day, so you can allow yourself and your self-worth to rise. That way you're not getting jealous just because you think negatively about yourself. That way you're not planting seeds into another person's life that you're not good enough. All right, guys, so that completes this video. Make sure if you did like the video that you do hit that like button or the dislike button. If you didn't like it, just let me know what you think in the comments section below. And if you're gonna use these 3 things either in your future relationships, your current relationships, or maybe just to understand why your past relationships didn't work, drop me a hashtag relationships in the comments. I would love to hear your guys' insights. Make sure to check out my Facebook page as well for my daily dose with Daisha every single day, and hit that subscribe button so you can keep up to date on these videos and not miss a thing. I will see you guys next week.